Well, hi everybody, and my name is Jerusha Myers. I am from the central U.S., Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma originally. Also, too, my other home is Uganda. My husband's Ugandan. But anyway, um, I graduated from high school. In fact, it was the largest high school in Oklahoma at the time in 1976. I attended my first year of college at Oklahoma State University, and then I got married, and then after that, attended 1 year at the University of Tulsa. And my husband at the time was not very big on me finishing my degree. Well, years later, and by the way, the marriage ended in divorce, and that's another story altogether. But I went back to college and got my criminal justice law enforcement degree from the University of Central Oklahoma, which is very respected for that area. And also, too, they also have a forensics um, degree available, and they are connected with the OSBI. And it's just a great program. That's just another thing altogether. But I graduated with my bachelor's degree in criminal justice law enforcement in 2006. Now, one young lady. I'm 65. By the way, I turned 65 this past November. I was born on Veterans Day. I'm the daughter of a World War II veteran. My parents were older. I got asked a lot how come I lived with my grandparents. But anyway, right now we are apparently the largest segment of the population here in the United States. But anyway, I did an internship with the YWCA in Oklahoma City, and they deal with domestic violence victims, etc. And then my first job was just a basic, processing EBT cards and all that through the University of Central Oklahoma. I mean, through not the University of Central Oklahoma. Oh, through Department of Human Services. And then I was part of a youth service agency, and I worked with parents who had a child in Oklahoma Juvenile Authority custody. Well, that ended less than 2 years later after funding ran out and different things. So I was drawing unemployment, and by the way, back then it was less than half what you made, and you could only get it for 6 months. But I had an amazing worker. He was American African, he was my age, and he was looking at my resume and he said, Jerusha, boy, you have an amazing resume and all this multicultural experience and, so forth and so forth. And he says, they call you in for an interview and you walk in the door and it's written all over their face. They're expecting someone in their 20s, mid 30s at the oldest. They are not expecting grandma. And we know it is illegal to discriminate against someone on the basis of age, but we both know that they do. And I'll never forget, not too long ago, I called the YWCA in Oklahoma City where I did my internship and to find out what was available in my hometown, Tulsa, that I could refer people to. Oh my goodness. It's like, well, sweetheart, you know, and because it's the, DVIS that does it in Tulsa, and just talk down to me like I was a child. Well, number one, regardless, that was very unprofessional. I always tell people, back they used to be, having a, administrative assistant, receptionist was a very common position. And many times, someone's first contact with your business or your agency sets the tone you're representing. And so she was talking down to me, and I look back now and I should have said, how old do you think I am? But number one, that was very, very unprofessional of her. I probably ought to contact them and let them know that, hey, no, that's not appropriate. But, of course, now, companies do not have, receptionists and so forth. But just remember, you know, don't assume things. And as I said, I have not had a full-time job, since then. I've been, working, with temp agencies and so forth. And as I said, people have got to keep in mind and do not assume things just being presumptuous, you know. And as I said, a lot of times I get, people think I'm younger than I am. And I'll never forget a number of years ago, I used to work for a bookstore chain called Borders Books and Music and Cafe. And of course, they went bankrupt in 2011. But I was a merchandising manager. But I'll never forget, we're getting ready for the holidays, and I was working at the one in Tulsa. I also did a short time in Plano, and that's another story altogether. But we had a late night bookshelf getting ready for the holidays. So I was coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning and was getting ready to turn onto the highway that took me to where I live. Flashing red lights in the back. Well, I knew I wasn't speeding. My license plate was current, et cetera, et cetera. So I pulled over, and, the officer, I rolled down the window, and the officer said, "Well, where have you been?" I said, "I was at work." And he said, "Well, where do you work?" I said, "Borders Books and Music in Tulsa." And, in the meantime, I'm, getting my, proof of insurance, and I have, getting ready to hand him my driver's license. And he said, "Well, where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going home." And then the next thing he said, "Well, where are your parents?" I said, "They're dead." By this time, he got my driving, and he looked at my birth date. And the look on his face, oh, talk about a camera moment. I said, "You pulled me over for curfew violation, didn't you?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "You made my day." Well, the next night, again, late night show, coming home, lights again. It was a different officer asking me the same questions. And when he's looking at my driver's license, and he said, "Well, ma'am, the reason why I pulled you over, you might get that passenger side headlight checked. It might be going out." Now, headlights just go out. They don't flicker and all that, even though I had an older car, that was before those times. But again, don't assume things, and don't assume that all middle-aged people have Alzheimer's. But anyway, just thought maybe, you would enjoy hearing that, my experience. So anyway, until next time, shalom.